Do you have fear or does fear have you? Let me say that again. Do you have fear or does fear have you? Mark Twain, a very famous American writer, once said, I am an old man and have known a great many troubles, but most of them never happen. Wow, I've learned from this profound quote that most of us may have spent much time feeling afraid. We become fearful that something wrong will happen based on our own negative imagination, when in reality, it isn't happening, right? So, if we are not careful, fear can hold us back from a life we love living. What then can we do to overcome our fear? Hi, my name is George Go, and I am a transformational life coach. Let me share a personal experience I had many, many years ago, where I learned a few simple tricks to live with my fear. Now, I remember being terrified of the dark at night during my childhood days. I'm not sure whether you have had similar experiences too. I grew up watching many, many scary movies, and I unconsciously developed this fear of the dark. Like many, I just love watching scary movies, like The Exorcist, The Thing, and many of Alfred Hitchcock's horrifying television shows. However, I was always surrounded by my family and friends when watching all these scary movies. Then, when it is time for me to go to bed, and I realize that I am alone in my room, the fears and the nightmares began to start. My imagination had a field day and just went wild. I would start imagining that something might be under my bed, and I would feel very frightened, like the Exorcist movie, that my bed would start moving and shaking violently. Or in the movie, The Thing, where the creature suddenly pops out from the block of ice. And I become paranoid about where the thing may be in my room, or in the Alfred Hitchcock show, The Birds, in which humans are imprisoned in the house and viciously attacked by the birds. And I worried and feared whether I would be attacked by the birds while sleeping. I was afraid and embarrassed to express my fear to anyone. This fear of the dark feeling would persist for days after watching such horror shows. And it wasn't a cheerful or fun way to have a peaceful and good night's sleep. My fear soon became so evident that my parents began to notice it. Like all loving parents, they were concerned and asked me why I was so fearful of the dark. I was afraid to tell them, as I wanted them to see me as a macho kid, and I soon gave in and recounted my fear of the dark to them. My parents comforted me, and I can still remember, in essence, what they told me, which startled my senses. They said, George, don't be scared of all these horror and scary movies. It's only a movie. Why not watch some comedy shows on TV to override your fearful thoughts? It may also help you to overcome your fear of the dark, and you can have a good night's sleep. Wow, why didn't I think of that? Even though I was still terrified, what they said made sense. So I did what they suggested and began watching comedy shows on TV almost every night. It wasn't easy initially, as the fearful feelings persisted, but I began building and practicing a new way of thinking to help me conquer my fear of the dark. I started sleeping better at night with the lights on and gradually with the lights turned off. I was no longer terrified of the dark as I had been. I no longer feel frightened or allow my frightened ideas to run wild in my head. Eventually, I began to experience a more quiet and restful sleep. Through this whole experience, I realized one very important thing, and that is there is a big difference between fear having me and me having fear. Let me repeat that. There's a big difference between fear having me and me having fear. Whether we like it or not, we all have some form and level of fear that may keep us stuck in life. Fear, I suppose, is our continuous companion in life. Fear is like the garden weeds. We cannot get rid of them completely, can we? All we have to do is manage them so that we create space for the good seeds to grow, just like growing more empowering thoughts in our mind. I understand how frightening it may be to have fearful thoughts, like when we are transitioning from one phase of life to another. For example, from where we are now into retirement. But if that fear is keeping you stuck, then fear has you. In order to turn the tables on fear, we must allow ourselves to feel the fear and move forward anyway. Here is one thing I know for sure, and that is highly successful people are willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of growth. Let me repeat. Highly successful people are willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of growth. Think about that. So, if you are growing, fear will be your constant companion. Why not acknowledge and manage that fear by installing a new empowering way of thinking as a stepping stone to move you toward creating a life you love? Now, it's your turn. I'd like to invite you to reflect on your own life and ask yourself these two important questions. Number one, where have I allowed fear to limit my growth and success? I repeat, where have I allowed fear to limit my growth and success? Question number two, what is one step that I can take today to turn the tables on fear so that I have fear rather than letting it have me? Let me say that again. What is one action step that I can take today to turn the tables on fear so that I have fear rather than fear having me? Give it a thought. So, here is to having fear, but doing it afraid anyway. I'm George Go, and remember always that you are meant to live a life you love at every age and every stage. See you next time. Thank you.